Now, more than $1 billion was spent last year by the largest 17 government departments and agencies on private contractors and consultants. The COVID-19 response has forced spending up, and several agencies say in their annual reviews that there's more to come. Our reporter Phil Pennington has all the details. Good morning, Phil.
Kia ora, Corin.
All right, what are the biggest increases? Where are they?
Yeah, well, you know, with COVID, that parts of the economy have shrunk, but not in this case. We've got the likes of NZTA. They've cracked $100 million for the first time, up 24%. Police, interestingly, 38% higher on contractors and consultants to $60 million, and Defence Force up 15% to $62. And then, of course, you've got health, which you would expect, $42 million, up 68%. But internal affairs, they're up 32%, almost a third to $76 million. They've got a lot of IT projects on the way.
Now, how are they related, if you like, to COVID-19?
Everything is these days. Of course, health, obviously, you know, they say that they've had to scale up rapidly for that. But you've got the likes of MSD. They're up 35% to $60 million. And they've been one who was actually trending downwards. And they're actually forecasting next year another huge rise of 50% to $93 million. They had to delay a few IT projects, and they're going to start spending on that because this is spending that covers both capital and operational spending.
Let me just pick you up on this. This is an interesting point because, you know, some of the criticisms of not just in New Zealand but around the world is that government health departments weren't properly ready for the pandemic. They weren't resourced. They weren't of the scale they needed to be. So, I mean, it's probably reasonable that they're ramping up, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it is reasonable in the sense, like I say, there's parts of the economy are shrinking. This could actually be seen in the time of a pandemic. Not a bad thing that, you know, the government is able to go to a flexible resource. Obviously, they need a sort of expertise that you wouldn't just get off the shelf. So going for contractors and consultants and the environment that we're in is interesting. But you do have the likes of TA who are not sort of COVID directly. They're talking about having to build a buffer of more contract staff than they normally would have just to account for the uncertainties ahead. You've also got mention here in these annual reviews of MB facing a $200 million plus deficit related to COVID. Things like immigration levies have gone down, while contractor and consultant spending there remains stubbornly high at over $100 million.
Have any wound back their spending?
Well, they have notably IRD, because they've been the granddaddy of this. They were up over $200 million last year, or 2 years ago. They got it down to 183 as they wind down their $1 billion IT project. It's a department, though, wedded to fixed-term hires at IRD as against the stress in the rest of the government on permanent hires. Oranga Tamariki, interesting, down 15% at 22 million, although its review shows over a doubling of its communications team members from 16 to 35. But they told me this was just a shifting round of roles, not extra hires. And then you have the likes of NZTA. They're attempting what they call workforce optimisation to bring in more permanent hires and leadership positions.
Now, the government vowed back in 2018 that it would reduce its reliance on consultants, cut spending and invest in savings and permanent staff. So how do you think it is going overall, would you say?
Well, Minister Chris Hipkins, he made that vow when they were embarrassed about MB spending on contractors. He says that they are managing to do this, that the trend is down, but he does warn that he expects demand will continue at an increased level for the next 12 months, and that's related to COVID. Of course, this is in the core public sector, which is about 34 departments. In those agencies outside it, which include police, NZTA, and that, they are not bound by the directive to try and get it down in much the same way. And I think that's where we're going to see the real pressures and a real chance for a blowout in the coming year.
One to watch. Thank you very much, Phil Pennington.